this is what I've been taught by various people over the past 2 years, and hints and tips that I've acquired along the way. I have noticed that when I looked on YouTube recently, there's only one instruction video for 78 RPM records, how to record them, and actually the poster says that the advice is dated, so I decided to do an updated one. Again, this is entirely how I do it myself. Chances are I'll probably be doing a few things that people may disagree to. If so, then please do tell me. But you know, if I can do this on my shoestring budget, then so can you, because there are a lot of good records out there. But you know, for whatever reason, people don't know how to transfer them properly, so they end up like videoing them or whatever. And you know, obviously it'll sound much better if you plug it straight into your laptop. So there are a few things to discuss before I do that, and I've got it written down here. The first thing is record grooves. Each company each company pressed records with different groove sizes. So HMV, Decca, Victor, etc. They all had different widths of the grooves. Now, bearing in mind that when you play these on a period machine, that's not a problem, because the steel needle wears down into the groove and the sound is reproduced perfectly. On a fixed needle stylus, like the one, for example, that all modern record players have, this becomes an issue, because if you have a really small needle in a really large groove, it will go backwards and forwards like that, and you can hear the sound of it going against the groove walls. So again, it's highly recommended that if you have lots of money to spend, which I don't, that you buy different needle sizes to compensate for different groove sizes. It's also a good idea, this is going to sound really common sense, but it is a good idea to get clean records, because obviously the less it's been played, the less worn out it will sound, and the easier it will be to restore them. That's why I only buy cleaner records, because I don't have the technology to make really worn out records sound as good as they do at the moment. So yeah, clean records and groove sizes. The record that I'm going to be restoring today is this one. This has been posted on my channel before, but I need to do another one. It's We've Got the Moon and Sixpence by Ray Noble and his New Mayfair Dance Orchestra. Now, there are a few scrapes and scratches on this. The biggest one is down there, and there's a few. I mean, generally it's not that bad a condition, it's just quite shiny. It's just had a bit of a beaten up pass. So yes, we'll put that back down there. Before we do, I'm going to show you my setup and how this all works, in order to get the music from my record player onto my computer. Okay, so the record is spinning on the turntable there. We have the cartridge, etc. all set up. Okay, now the record player here is going into the graphic equalizer here, and then eventually out to my laptop and speakers, which is my little radio. Now, the first thing to note about this is that you notice that my graphic equalizer is set at well, everything's completely flat. This is not accurate enough. This only has 10 bands, whereas the one on my laptop has 30 bands. Because the cartridge is actually really loud, you'll notice that the output, or the attenuating lever, is all the way down to -20, and most of the bands are around -4. So it's about 24 decibels in total that I've cut out. The reason for that being is that if I basically turn this off, it will just distort because it's so loud the computer cannot handle it. So without further ado, we will set this running. Now, the important thing, the first thing to notice is that the record is recorded in stereo. This is very important because when you come to decrackle it and declick it, etc., it's important to take both sides of the groove. Now this is done on Cool Edit Pro, but this can also be done on Audacity as well, which is the free version. So let's just click OK. Alright, now we are ready to record. So let's pop the needle on there. Actually, 1 minute. Let's press record first, which might help. And let's put the needle down. Alright, so this is now recording. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a sound file during each stage of the reproduction, so that you'll be able to see, or you'll be able to hear it better. Rather than the microphone recording it, I'll just use the straight input that's being recorded here. So we will leave this to record for however long it goes on for, and we'll come to the next step in a moment.
Come true. We've courage to smile at our sorrows, that's riches enough for two.
Alrighty YouTube, we now have our song there. That's the song in its entirety. You'll notice that the passages here are where it gets louder, and likewise the passages there are where it gets a lot quieter. Now, in the last video I mentioned things about equalization and bands and lots of big words like that. There's nothing to be worried about here. I will do a quick rundown of this. Now, this graph here, what we're looking at is the RIAA equalization curve. Now, this record deck, as I have there, is obviously new. All the new record players are built with this curve here. Now you see the curve goes all the way down like that and down there. So on the left hand side you have amplitude in decibels going up from 0 to 20 and negative 20. And on the bottom you have frequency in hertz. Now, this is very, very important to note because all record players will play with this curve, and 78 RPM records were not recorded like this. The idea being that all the higher frequency, really bassy notes are dulled, and all the low frequency notes here from 20, 50, 100, 200 Hz, etc. Are boosted. Now, this is why the song sounds really, really muffled. You'll notice all the saxophone sections will sound really, really bad. They will sound completely muffled, is the only way to describe it. Okay. Now, to counteract this, okay, you have to apply the reverse curve. Now you see this curve going up here is basically the opposite of that one. Now, these instructions can be found on the internet for the RIAA curve. So basically, what you do is you will apply the reverse curve of it, and the resulting output or play will be completely flat there. So it won't be really muffled at 20,000 Hz, and it won't be really high at 20 Hz. 20 Hz. Likewise, it'll just be completely flat all the way through. This is very, very important because this reveals all the clicks, pops, crackle, etc. for what it really is. So we're going to go back to Cool Edit. Okay, now we have our song here. And the first thing to do is Effects, Filters, Graphic Equalizer, and then you'll notice here I have the reverse RIAA curve programmed in. So that's all done up there. Now I notice, just like the graph, all the high frequencies, it's going up, it's boosted up there, and likewise it's dulled slightly at the lower frequencies. Now we will do that there and wait for that to chug away. Now watch how it's going to be different when it finishes. You see that? The way it shrunk, and notice now all the clicks. For example, this one here, which wasn't evident last time, see it's gone. This click here is now evident, which means that the file can be declicked and decrackled, etc. I'll play an example of what it sounds like when the curve has been removed. this is probably the one step that most people don't realise. All these decks have this curve programmed into it because they're all designed to play modern vinyl. They're not designed to play 78. So since a lot of people don't have their own amplifiers, and I don't, you have to apply this reverse curve, because otherwise everything will sound completely muffled in the higher frequencies, and you don't want that because it will kill the record.
And dreams to make come true. We've courage to smile at our sorrows, that's riches enough for two.
Now you've just heard an example of before and after the equalisation has been applied, and you'll notice how different it sounds, particularly on the saxophone section. As I say, this is tremendously important because you simply cannot restore the record unless you remove this play out instruction that the record player has been programmed to do. So we now have our record here. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to start declicking it. So I'm going to go to Click Pop Eliminator here. I'm going to tell it to also find all the levels there. So it's going to have a look at that now. When it does that, I'll just say there are lots of programs out there that will declick and decrackle at the same time. In my experience, this is really not advised. The reason being that even, for example, Cedar and all the best programs cannot declick and decrackle at the same time. It's better, I know it takes longer, but it's better to do them one at a time. So that's now found our levels there, the detect and reject threshold. I don't know what all those numbers mean, but it usually works, so we'll just click OK, and off it goes. Now that's going to take quite some time, which is really annoying. So yeah, as I said, do not declick and decrackle at the same time. Now hopefully, when this finishes and it hurries up, you will notice that a lot of the spikes have been reduced, and when I play the next sound file, the crackle will be significantly reduced. There we go. So let's just do a before and after from this. See what a difference that makes already. A lot of the crackle has already gone. Okay. Right, now I'm going to play this sound file, and you can have a listen to what it sounds like in this step.
And dreams to make come true. We've courage to smile at our sorrows, that's riches enough for two.
Alright, so we've now declicked our file and we're ready to run through the next program, which is Click Repair. This is what I'm using here. This was a few dollars, I think $20, $30. I can't remember, but this is quite useful for decrackle, which is the main feature. I don't bother using the declick there. It also has a handy function here, in that while it's playing, I can tell it to play all the noise that's being filtered. I can tell it to play the music that's going in and the music that's coming out after the filtering. So we've got our program loaded up, and I'm going to press start. Now I'm going to press start, and I'm going to show you what I think is the way not to filter records. Now, crackle is essentially high frequency noise. That's all it is. All the crackling occurs in the higher frequency bands, and what this thing is going to do is it's going to look for all these high frequency bands and it's going to reduce it. Now obviously the danger with this is that if you set, for example, the decrackle feature to max and you tell it to make 3 passes, it will start cutting into things like trumpets and all the higher frequency instruments, because it's going to confuse that with crackle, and this is when you get records that again sound really over filtered and really they don't sound too good. Okay, so I'm gonna play the record now. I'm gonna set it so it's outputting the noise that's being removed, and just listen when you can hear the blasts, because those blasts will mean that it's cutting into the music. You want a nice steady crackle that's going on. Okay, so here we go. Now obviously, 1 minute, let's abort that. There we go. Now obviously that sounds really, really bad because you can hear it every time the orchestra is going da da. It's that high frequency is just catching there. So what we're going to do is, this is where the experimentation part comes in, and we're gonna move this back a bit. So we'll probably say about 55 to begin with. This is the trial and error part, which may take some time. So I'll play this again, and we'll listen to the noise coming out. Now what we want, you'll notice it's not being filtered as heavily this time. What we want is a nice steady crackle of noise. So let's have a listen, see if we can hear this. Alright, now, again, that sounds really bad. You see these blue patches there. I presume that means something bad's happening. So I think that's over filtering again, and you can still hear it coming out in the noise. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn it down even more. I'll start again, and let's go down to about 40 this time and see what happens. Right, that should be alright. There's still a lot of filtering into the music, but again, I'd rather have some of the crackle gone, because obviously this is a HMV record. So, I mean, obviously there are still our parts, for example, there where it's blasting again, but a lot of these things is well, you know, Click Repair is what I can afford, and sometimes it will do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue filtering this, and I will play you the decrackled version of this file in the next music segment. Right, so we now have our decrackled music there, starting to look a bit better. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to convert this piece of audio to mono. So let's do that now. And same sample rate, mono. Okay. Right, while that happens, I'm gonna talk about a few other things. The record itself still has a few clicks on it, which sometimes the filters fail to pick up. Now this is the part where you literally can spend hours going through each little click and zooming all the way in and removing the fraction of a second that it's clicking for. The aim with that is to remove so much that your ears don't pick up that there's music being lost. For the purposes of this demonstration, I'm not going to bother doing that because it will take me forever, and my time is very limited, unfortunately. So this is our mono file now. There we go. Next, we're going to re-equalize the sound. Now, this again is another minefield. It depends on who says what, etc. As far as I understand it, I think different companies used microphones which recorded different frequencies in different ways. So EMI or HMV recorded like this. So you'll notice that all the frequencies at this end were boosted, whereas for the rest of it, it's pretty much flat. Other companies use different curves. Victor is notorious for using very many different curves, and in actual fact, the playback can the playback can be different for each recording session sometimes. So I don't really have the know-how to play with these curves too much, but all I know is that this EMI curve that the instructions that I was given from a good friend of mine work well for HMV recordings. So now I'm going to re-equalize the sound again, and this will make it sound like it was originally recorded. So we've removed the playback curve from the record player, which makes it sound really muffled, and now we're going to boost this end of the frequency spectrum, and hopefully it should sound a bit more lively. So here we go. Alright, so now you'll notice that it's changed quite a lot. I'm going to play this file back to you, and you can have a listen, but there is still more work to be done yet. Alright, so we've just re-equalized the file, and now we've gone back into Click Repair. Now I'm going to filter it again, because when you decrackle a file in stereo, it introduces digital artifacts, and when I decrackle the mono file, it will remove those artifacts. So off it goes. Now you'll notice that because I've already filtered it, it's not being filtered as heavily this time. In actual fact, it's rather quick, and this will give us the finished results. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to wait for this. Excuse me. Wait for this to finish there. Open this one up. Mono EQ CR. You notice the amount of files that I had in that folder. It's always a good idea to save your file as you go along, because if you don't like a step, it's easier to go back to the previous step and then redo it rather than having to go through the original again. So we now have our finished file. Finally, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to amplitude and normalize to 80%, just so it doesn't sound as quiet. There we go. And we'll go to the very, very front of the music. And you see now this really wet uniform pattern. Now, before, if we go to the raw audio and we zoom in at the beginning there, you see all the various different crackles, etc. They've all been removed, and you'll notice that was really, really flat before because it had this really awful playback characteristic. Now it sounds like it should do. You can see it going, and it's much better. Anyway, so we're going to add a fade in here just to make it nice and have a good start. And likewise at the end, we're going to add a fade out. Good. Now, one thing to note is that I've not taken out all of the white noise and crackling, etc. When it's reduced, then it doesn't sound as harsh. It's not like when it's a smooth hiss. It's actually quite pleasant to the ears to have it with your music as well. Some people make the mistake, I believe, of over filtering it to remove the crackle completely, and then the records sound really muffled because the filtering has just cut into all the instruments and it doesn't sound really, really natural. So what I'm gonna do is I'll play this record in its entirety, and I'll stick it next to the raw file, and you can see just what a difference these few simple steps can make. As ever, if any of this doesn't make any sense, just tell me, and I will do my best to explain it to you, because a lot of these times it's easy for me to say, oh, let's do this, but then that's because I understand it, and it might not be easier for you to get or whatever. I know it certainly was confusing when I started, so yeah. Hopefully this should all work. So without further ado, here is Al Bowley's and Ray Noble's We've Got the Moon and Sixpence.
Oh, we've got the moon and sixpence and dreams to make come true. We've courage to smile at our sorrows, that's riches enough for two. We've bread and cheese and kisses that ought to see us through. A new day is ours tomorrow, that's a fortune for me and you. The rain will fall, but we should care, there's always a shelter near. The rainbow will be ours to share, and skies will be sure to clear. We've got the moon and sixpence and stars to light the blue. So long as we both have each other, that's more than enough for two.